And there you have Ghost of Days Gone by Alter Bridge, who is fronted by Myles Kennedy, and guitar work by Tremonti, bass player Brian Marshall, and drummer Scott Phillips. And welcome to the Scholastic Perspectives Podcast. This is Maddie. How are you? And I cannot get over that song, Ghost of Days Gone by Alter Bridge. It's one of those songs that has gotten me through a difficult time in my life, and I'm just indebted to the guest that we have on here is Myles Kennedy, and I'm grateful that on behalf of Scholastic Perspectives that Scotty Brown took the time to talk to Myles Kennedy. I wish I could have joined the podcast, but alas, we had a tornado warning, and it's kind of one of those things, kind of Mother Nature kind of disrupted my plans. But you know what? As an educator and as a podcaster, as a website designer, whatever you want to call it, sometimes you just got to roll with the punches and just take things in stride. And it was just out of my control. In fact, I can only control this very moment. And Myles came on to talk about mental health along with his album, The Ides of March. And I'm just absolutely grateful for him taking the time to talk to us. And The Ides of March really shows that renewed spirit, that renewed sense of hope that we all needed as we've gone through this COVID pandemic. And the COVID pandemic is, to me, it's more than a virus. It's kind of one of those things where, being in quarantine, being in lockdown, having the uncertainty of what the next day is going to bring with the pandemic, it's kind of taxing on mental health, and we tried to just shed that light on there, and just try to be good people, and stuff like that. And like I said, we are so grateful. I'm grateful for Scotty, who took the time to talk to Myles, and I'm grateful for Myles for taking the time out of his ever so busy schedule to take the time for us. And if you have not picked up the Ides of March, please do that through Spotify, through his official website at MylesKennedy.com, and also check out his Facebook and Instagram at official Myles Kennedy. And as you might be aware of, the Scholastic Perspectives Podcast is formerly known as the Madness Creation Podcast, and we're just taking a new direction on things, and I'm grateful for this direction, and I'm grateful for taking that step back that I need to rediscover my creative purpose. And follow us on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram at Scholastic Perspectives. At Instagram, there's an underscore between Scholastic and Perspectives. And on that note, here's our conversation with Myles Kennedy. And take it away, Scotty and Myles.
Freaking matter. My name is Scotty Brown. I am sitting here with the Myles Kennedy. It's good to be good. Thank you so much for giving us your time today, man. It really means a lot. Go ahead and give yourself a quick introduction for those who may not know who you are. And I know we got a new album coming out. Ides. I hope I said that correctly. I can't say that word. The Ides of March. Awesome album. Refreshing album. We'll talk a little bit about it. But for now, just go ahead and say hey to everyone. And welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Myles Kennedy. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. If you don't know who I am, I'm a singer, songwriter, and I like to make music and have a good time. Just hopefully making people happy with songs. So it's a pleasure to speak with you all today.
Absolutely. And that's a good starting point where you talk about the message in the music and how you want to bring happiness and joy, because in checking out the new album and listening to it. When you research the Ides of March, it's a time of celebration, and I think that is very symbolic of what this album represents. When you came up with the title and you started creating the album, was that kind of concept of celebration, having a good time? Was it always there, or did it kind of develop through the writing course of the album?
Yeah, the interesting thing about, I guess there's a few different meanings for Ides of March, but there's another meaning which is a lot darker, which is actually where I extracted it from, which was, there's the Julius Caesar story and beware the Ides of March. So the phrase Ides of March to me was always kind of a basically a foreshadowing or a warning of what could come. And so a lot of these songs, because they were written during the beginning of the pandemic and there was just a lot of uncertainty, a fair amount of these songs address that and kind of address the questions around that period. But at the same time, trying to essentially offer I think an element of hopefulness, and which is something that's paramount to me as the writer, to always have that juxtaposition of dark and light, and though there's definitely that realm of questioning and foreshadowing, I feel like the record ends on an optimistic belief that everything's going to be all right.
Absolutely. And as I'm listening to the album, the one thing that I noticed, whether the message, the message is light or it's dark, depending on, which song you're coming from, whether it's the title track, or something like that, it all represents just being blunt about life. That's one of the messages I got. We go through our ups and downs, and we go through times, but we got to get up. And there will be beautiful times where things are easy, but there will also be dark times where things are hard and they're hard to deal with. And I think that every song on that album, actually does touch on, even 1,000 words, whether it's love, whether it's life, it seems like there's a positive message there. And I feel like, even though this is the not the first solo album you've done by any means, and not the first album at all, it really feels like that message that you started to bring forth in the previous record, it's really here now. And was it always? I mean, did you realize that the music would be so uplifting whenever you wrote it, or did you just want the listener to interpret it, on their own?
Well, I always like the song to be ambiguous enough for the listener to interpret it and have it find a place in their own life, find their own meaning. But with that said, I think music is, there are certain characteristics that you manifest in whether it's your melodic approach or the chord progressions you use or whatever it is, and it doesn't even necessarily have to have a lyric tied to it. It just will kind of invoke a certain emotion, be it a certain weight, a certain darkness, or a certain optimism or hopefulness. And so I think that's something in a lot of the way that I've approached my songwriting over the years was to have kind of a a certain soaring quality. I like choruses that go into major keys because that definitely is uplifting. So maybe that's some of what you hear there. But at the end of the day, you touched on something that I do like to have songs be open to interpretation. And it's been fun doing interviews for this record and hear everybody's take on the meaning of the song, because everybody gets totally different vibes, which is really interesting for me as a songwriter. It's like this Rorschach test, this musical Rorschach test. So it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And Year of the Tiger was great, and the Ides of March is awesome. And not only do we have a wonderful album to rejoice about, but we also have a tour coming up, I believe, very soon, coming up at the beginning of September. You're going to start off in St. Petersburg in the beautiful city of Florida, and you are going to end off in Maryland, if I am correct there. I know that you have to be excited, about the tour, especially with everything going on. So, what can fans expect? Of course, they're going to hear all of the greatest songs from the album, and basically, of course, they're going to hear all the songs from the album, and they're going to hear, some new songs. What does it feel like to be able to know that you can go tour and you can actually play these songs in front of people after, being kept behind for so long, over a year and a half almost?
It's exciting. I mean, I think all of us in the music industry are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, though it's still not, completely untethered to the past. We're still dealing with some things, and certain tours are having to shut down for a little bit. But we're all trying to stay optimistic, and I think that because our lifeblood is performing and has been, like, for me since as long as I can remember. So yeah, it's going to be great to get back on stage again and ultimately just reconnect with the fans, and I've missed it tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing you mentioned at the beginning was that a lot of these songs were written at the very beginning, of the situation that was going on in the world. When going through that phase, do you think that in a way, even though it was definitely a terrible time, but I know for a lot of musicians, especially a lot of artists in any field of creativity, some of the best art was brought out. Did that have any impact on the record at all? Do you think being quarantined and kept inside, did that help bring out some part of your writing that you may not have been able to find, or at least in a very long time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because there was nothing else to do. I didn't have any tours. I had nothing pulling on me. So it allowed me the ability to get up every single day and focus on one thing and one thing only, which, made it, I think, a much different record. I think it allowed me to focus, and that's not always the case.
Absolutely. So let's go a little bit, I know we only got a few minutes of your time, so I want to dig a little bit deeper into, I want to talk about the song In Stride. Obviously the title track, The Ides of March, that is definitely a big message, overall theme of the album, but I feel like In Stride is a very strong point of the album, and there's so many pieces in each song, along with the lyrics and the way that the choruses are constructed. Can you go a little bit into that song as far as like the lyrical content and the writing process of that one specifically, because that one stood out to me very much.
Yeah, that was a song. It was written towards the end of the writing process, and I just really wanted a song that was more up tempo, and I think that the lyric was really just a mantra that I needed for myself to kind of calm down. I think there was just so much uncertainty, and I started to get a little frustrated, and I think I'd kind of lost my perspective, and so that song it really is written to me, and the idea of cool down, baby, you're going to burn out in time, really meaning just if you don't get a handle on your anxiety and your stress about everything that's occurring, I don't think it's going to end well. So yeah, it's been a real fun thing to see how people have heard the song and they've been able to connect with that and kind of feel the same thing, and it finds a place in their life. And that, as a writer, that's always kind of the highest compliment. It's kind of the big payoff when you know that you've created something that somebody listens to and can find a certain solace from, and so that's been really fun to see.
Oh man, just as a side note, with your writing, I've always found solace in your music, and I think that I think that shows even more in this record. I think that the message is, you can be you, and I think it shows in the record. So awesome messages all around. Now, focusing a little bit more on the album, I just want to know, of course, it's your baby. obviously, of course, the brand new album is your baby, the Ides of March. Every song is going to be your baby, and it's going to mean the world to you. But you know, what song to me for you was the most challenging from a writing standpoint, both mentally and physically, with the writing, the music, and the singing?
Oh, easily the title track, The Ides of March. Yeah, I mean, that was the track that I spent the most time developing and putting, I think all in all, it took about 4 months to complete that song. I kind of put it together in pieces. And yeah, and normally, some of those songs were written, like there's a song called Moonshot, which was written in, under 2 hours. So there's that one I really put a lot into. I felt like the whole record kind of hinged on that song. Until that track was done to my expectations, I didn't feel like I had an album. And yeah, so a lot went into it.
So I suppose is that ended up being the title track because you felt like that the whole album kind of revolved around that one song. I mean, did you have the name of the album before the track, or did it come as that track developed?
Yeah, it came. Well, I was actually on a walk with my wife probably in March of last year, and I was trying to figure out what the record would be called, and it came to mind. That phrase came to mind. I thought that would be interesting, but I also at the same time knew I had this piece of music I'd started, which kind of the mood of the sonic element of the music, I felt like fit that phrase. So it kind of was like killing two birds with one stone. It'll be a song title and also the album title.
Absolutely. To go on a little bit more about the tour, I know that, you're excited to get back out there. The one thing I want to know, and I think a lot of people may be curious about, with your other projects, whether it be Slash or Alter Bridge, the rooms are huge, and I feel like here with your solo work, you want it. It's meant to be a little more intimate. It's meant to be a little more you. So is there like a change in mentality, performing, at an arena with your other groups, or going to like a theater or a smaller, more intimate venue? You mentioned connecting with the fans. So is that kind of like the meaning? You want to use this to get into smaller areas to connect with your fans? What's the mentality when going from two separate shows like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different realm, and I did miss playing in those venues where you could see every face and read every face in the venue, as opposed to playing in some of these bigger rooms where it gets harder. It's not as personal. And so yeah, when you are starting something out and you're kind of rebuilding a brand, you go back to square one, which, to be honest with you, I loved on the last record. I just thoroughly enjoyed getting back into that environment. And I remember hearing about artists that would do that along the way, and I never could understand it. You'd hear about guys who are in these bigger bands, and then they go out and they do these other they put together other bands or they do solo projects, and then they're back in smaller rooms. Like, wow, I wonder why they'd want to do that. And then when you suddenly are in the position where you kind of climbed the mountain and you stood on the top of the mountain and been like, well, this is great. I'm playing arenas now. This is amazing. But then it's just human nature. Like, but boy, I kind of miss those smaller venues too. So let's get back in a van and do that and start something new and experience that. The only problem with that is like in certain markets now with the solo thing, I just didn't even know this till recently, but like I was used to playing in the smaller venues, and now this is starting to grow in other parts of the world. And I'm like, how big is that venue? Wait a minute here. I thought we were just playing small rooms. So I'm gonna miss the intimacy. But yeah, that's a great problem to have at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to see how the fans interpret it at these live shows. One last question about the tour. Is there, well, this is a two-part question. Is there a particular, city that you like to play? And secondly, what do you think, what is the overall, headlining message, I guess, that you would want fans to expect from the upcoming Ides of March tour?
Well, as far as a message, I don't know if there's a message per se, but I definitely think it's the fact that bands are getting out and touring again is a sign that the fellowship of music has begun again, which is good, and fingers crossed that will continue to move forward. As far as cities, favorite places to play, heck, anywhere where someone will show up. Like if someone's going to take the time out of their day and come see this clown play, I'm thrilled. So I certainly have cities that I enjoy walking around and checking out, and I think are great. Like in Europe, my wife and I love Vienna, and I love London, and in the States, there are a number of awesome cities. But it's funny, as long as I've been doing this, you get to a point where you kind of stop venturing out of your hotel room. You've been to a place enough and explored enough, and it's just kind of business. And so I spend most of my time either on stage or in a hotel room writing the next record or in a tour bus.
Hey, that sounds like a good life. And, man, Myles, I appreciate your time. I try not to fangirl too much, but, you've been one of my all-time favorites my whole life. And Matt, the guy who is the editor of Madness to Creation, he just wanted me to let you know he would have loved to have been here, but they unfortunately are having some severe storm warnings, and he's a special education teacher, so he had to take care of them. So he wasn't able to be here. But yeah, Myles, I just want to let you know I appreciate your time. The album is awesome. The music just keeps getting better. I can't wait to see what your fans are going to, how they're going to receive the live show, and, because the album's good and it's been well received. Comments are awesome. People are loving it. People are loving what you got to do. So with that, I say keep going, and thank you for giving us such an uplifting record and, touching on real truthful subjects in life during this dark time. It really is helpful. And I appreciate you giving Madness to Creation our time. Thank you so much. So, Myles, is there anything you would like to add before we end this out and I give you your time, I get out of your hair?
Oh, I just want to thank you. Thank you for your time and asking great questions and caring. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, real quick, I just, as a side note, I just want to throw out there, I got that graphic novel pre-ordered, the bundle that you guys did. So very excited
awesome.
to get that this fall and see
awesome.
what you guys look like as horror characters. So,
Kevin,
real quick, did you guys have any input on that? I'm just curious if you did you guys know about that? Like, just out of my own curiosity.
Not a ton of input. I think it was more just like seeing some of the drawings but the powers that be did a great job. So we weren't going to mess it up.
Yeah, super excited to have One Day Remains on vinyl. Well, Myles, if he's not on the line, tell Kevin thank you. Again, I appreciate it, and I will definitely link Kevin to this whenever it is good to go. Myles, you're awesome. Please keep it up. You've helped me out so much through life, so please don't stop now. Keep going.
I won't. I appreciate that.
Well, you guys have a great day, and thank you again for your time. It was awesome. Thank you, and tell Kevin I said thank you if he's not on the line.
I will do that. Thank you, brother.
All right, Myles, be safe.
Okay.
Have a good tour, okay?
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.